Lived here for 46 years, and this is the first time we've flooded like this.
Yeah, all the stones are right here.
Neighbors along Palmer Boulevard in Sarasota tell us this is the worst flooding they've seen in decades, and not even Hurricane Ian hit them this bad.
We've never had water in the road, ever. Even my fence is under the water. That's never happened.
46 years, guys. Been there 46 years, never seen this happen. So yeah, even if you ask the neighbors, they're like, it's never flooded, didn't? You heard what she said. Did not flood during Ian. Doesn't matter. This might get a little rowdy, but it really, really got under my skin. As you guys know, we recently had some serious flooding in Sarasota, in the Laurel Meadows area, in the Lakewood Ranch area from Tropical Storm Debbie, and I am hot today, guys. This is going to be a quick one. Going to be a little feisty because I am hot about what I'm seeing in the media about this. I feel horrible for these people. My thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who's been affected by this flooding or really any disaster we have down here ever. But what I'm seeing, what these people were told and why I harp on flood zones and why I harp on all of Florida is a flood zone has gotten my blood boiling right now. And I'll get to why, but let me show you what I'm talking about first.
It is clear they have a long road ahead of them in parts of Sarasota and Manatee counties. FEMA disaster declarations are already been approved for both of these counties, which means federal assistance is now available.
Fox 13's Kylie Jones was in Laurel Meadows in Sarasota today and spoke to neighbors who are navigating the recovery process.
If you drive through Laurel Meadows, some of the homes are hard to see over the mounds of furniture, flooring, and drywall. These floodwaters reduced everything some of these neighbors own to nothing but a pile of trash.
My entire life is in my front yard, including my childhood memories. Just gone.
And inside, Kim Gregory's house looks more like a construction site than the home she knew.
It's just pretty tragic to just watch your house being swallowed up by water, because that's literally what happened.
Homes in Laurel Meadows were filled with several feet of water for most of last week. Now, the neighborhood is in cleanup mode.
I had to have my friends go in my closet and clear it out because I lost my wedding dress, the dress I wore to my daughter's wedding, kitchen cabinets have to come out, the tile, all the appliances.
Gregory says, like most other people in the neighborhood, they don't have flood insurance because they were told they didn't need it.
I'm going to stop right there because what they said, they were told they didn't need it. And this is, guys, I've been trying to, for a year, I've been harping on this. This is probably exactly what they were told. There are listings out there that will say in the first line, not in a flood zone here in Southwest Florida. It's all a flood zone, guys. It's to what degree and what severity is it going to flood. And unfortunately, these people, I feel horrible for her. These people were in an ex-flood zone where your flood insurance is mostly reasonable. I'm doing a closing with a gentleman on a new construction. He's maybe 4 or 5 miles from the beach. And he's in an ex-flood zone, and you know what? His flood insurance is going to be like $500-600 a year, guys. If that. I think it might have even been cheaper than that. But for $500 to $600 a year, this could have all been avoided. Most likely would have been, except these people it wasn't correctly explained to them. Now, I don't know if that's the real estate agent's fault. I don't know if that's the insurance agent's fault. I don't know if that's the mortgage person's fault. I don't know if that's the actual homeowner's fault for not doing their due diligence. But I want you guys to know, and I try to bring awareness to this, because this is what can happen. As you hear, no flood zone, we're fine. Oh, it's an ex-flood zone. Ex-flood zones still flood for various reasons, guys. We'll go right to FEMA's website, the flood maps and zones explained. As you can see, we'll jump down to special flood hazard areas are at higher risk. So your A and your V zones are definitely higher risk than for flooding. They say you have a 1 in 4 chance of flooding during a 30-year mortgage in the A or V zones, guys. That's a pretty high chance. So if you buy an A zone, you can basically 25% chance that your house is going to flood before you pay your mortgage off. That's high and needs to be considered when purchasing properties, and it is considered when insurance looks at it. These areas are a lot more costly to insure. Now let's go down to the X zone. These are non-specific flood hazard areas with moderate to low risk areas. X or shaded X, B or C. And this is what you'll see, guys. You'll see X, and people will label it not a flood zone. It's telling you right here. These areas submit more than 20% of the National Flood Insurance Program claims and receive 1/3 of the federal disaster assistance for flooding. The risk of flooding is reduced but not removed. Now, flood insurance isn't federally required in moderate to low risk areas, but it is recommended. So it's not required, doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means it's probably not going to be required by your lender. Though if you go with Citizens Insurance, our state-run insurance group, they are phasing everybody in, even if you're in an ex-flood zone, to have flood insurance over the coming years. So keep that in mind as well. And some areas, they don't even know what's going to happen. That's a flood zone D. Some flood maps also include areas where there are possible but undetermined flood hazards or unstudied areas. That's a D. That's going to probably be one of the more risky ones. We do have those down here in Punta Gorda, down by Tucker's Grade, more so down Burnt Store Road. But this sucks, guys, to see this, that these people, and she's not the only one. I'll show you another example. This woman here, guys, told the same exact thing. Let's take a look.
It's gone wrong. I mean, yes, we got a lot of rain. Everybody knows that, but nothing. This is a dry retention pond behind our house. We're not in a flood zone. We don't have flood insurance. Never thought we needed flood insurance. We're Zone X. If I wanted to be in a flood zone, I'd go live on a canal and say, okay, we're going to live on a flood zone. Never. The water kept creeping.
We're not in a flood zone. You don't need flood insurance. For what context? You don't need flood insurance for your mortgage. You don't need flood insurance because this can never flood. These are the kind of dangerous things that you've got to look out for here. And you know what? I talk about new construction a lot because they build up the areas outside of above the floodplain. That does not mean the whole area is not going to flood, guys. Your house may stay dry, but that can also mean, where's that runoff going now? Maybe it's going into the community that's been next door for 20 years that's now lower than you. And this is precisely what looks like what happened up in Lakewood Ranch. There is no way in or out of this community, and all the development up there, the water's got to go somewhere, guys. So now we're taking an aerial view of this, and were these flood zones? Were these areas high-risk flood zones? Even if they weren't, even if they built you up and took you into an X, which I just showed you is still a hazardous flood zone. Carry flood insurance, guys. Look at this. This is what overdevelopment can do sometimes when there's no place for the water to go. So just because, you know, you're at a builder and they say, oh, we're building the whole community up into an X flood zone. You're like, these houses are dry. You're not leaving. So consider that, guys. You know, some of these houses are not dry, but look, you can see right here, they built look where the water's going, guys. This is what building out of the flood zone means sometimes. It doesn't mean that the whole community's out of the flood zone. Maybe each house will stay high and dry, but you can still deal with these problems. I did a long video on this, guys, a long time ago. It was very boring, but this is a summary of coverage from FEMA on what is considered a flood. You guys need to know this, and you know, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of agents understand this themselves. They think X flood zone really does mean that it's never going to flood. And I hear a lot of agents say that, but so you've got to really look out for yourself and advocate for yourself and ask these questions. And you guys will, you know, email me, people will call me. You guys are on top of this stuff. I would almost say it's more dangerous to go into an X flood zone thinking it can never flood than to be in an AE or a V flood zone and have proper coverage. Because if something happens, at least you were aware, you were cognizant, you have the coverage. These people in the X flood zones, they had no idea this could ever happen, guys. They had no idea this could ever happen. And they probably were told, like they said, that it will never happen. Whether it was done intentionally or the people just didn't understand. Here, the consequences are the same, unfortunately. So how does the National Flood Insurance Program define a flood? We'll go through this really quick. Overflow of inland or tidal waters, unusual or rapid accumulation of runoff, mud flow, collapse or subsidence of land along the shore. You guys have to know this stuff. I know it's boring. I know it's not fun. It's not fancy. It's not pow, market meltdown news or anything, but you got to stay on top of this stuff, guys, because as you saw here with these poor people in these areas, they counted on someone else telling them that they were fine, and they're not fine.
While some are having fun kayaking down the road and catching fish in the suburbs, Alfred DeWitt is walking through his home knee-deep in water, just trying to see what can be salvaged.
Well, our freezer's at that end, and it's floating. Our nice little laundry room, the washer and dryer, nice stuff, you know, it's gone.
It's a heartbreaking story that's become a reality for so many of DeWitt's neighbors, including one couple in their 80s.
When they got up this morning, their feet hit the water. And so they just grabbed what they could and got out of there. And before they got out of there, it was this deep.
Leaving people like Anais Zambeau running to help with a boat and paddles.
I lived here for 46 years, and this is the first time we've flooded like this.
Not even Hurricane Ian hit them this bad.
We've never had water in the road, ever. Even my fence is under the water. That's never happened. It's unbelievable to me.
46 years, guys. Been there 46 years. Never seen this happen. So yeah, even if you ask the neighbors, they're like, it's never flooded, didn't? You heard what she said. Did not flood during Ian. Doesn't matter. It's all about how the water comes in, where the water lands, which ways. Every single one of these is different, guys. So even if it's like, hey, we didn't flood during Ian, that doesn't mean 46 years later it might not happen. It might happen 2 years later like it did here. You've got to be cognizant of all this. This is how it is down here. You got to know that going in. And if people won't answer these questions, find somebody else who will, or get online and start Googling it yourself and find out the answers that you need to know. That's what I got for today, guys. Know your zone. If you like this video, can you like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.